Floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good morning, and I'm really pleased to be here today with you. And yes, I'm trying to bring now back to technology and back to this thing that standardizes
Change the timer.
we like to do, which is basically loading everything with acronyms so that no one understands a word. I'll try to make it easy now. So basically, yes, why or how can we have a TETRA staying at the forefront? And it's not an easy one. It's not an easy question. We've heard today a plea from a very heavy user of critical communications. We've heard a very good panel pointing out at the different challenges that we are facing in the technology. So I guess I'll try to make this presentation fit what we have heard already. And I'll start to do something with technologists don't like to do, which is kind of sales pitch of what we do. But I think this will be interesting for those of you who are not very aware of why Etsy and why are we here in the middle of it all. A little bit about how we see TETRA today, and I'm not going to go through how it is being used or being deployed, but rather on what are we working on. And we had two very relevant speakers in the panel that could probably say a lot more than I can, but at least I will reference those. We've heard again talking about LTE, and LTE does have a big body behind, which is composed of not only Etsy but some other colleagues. And let me pick on this one because I think it's interesting that we see the whole picture. And let's talk a little bit about the future, not crystal ball, but probably put in some questions. So if I move forward, yes, Etsy has a very big E at the beginning, and it points to Europe, and we are proud of being a European association, and I will let you know why. But please don't be confused, because we actually, even though we were established as a European body, we cannot do but producing global standards. ICT is global. ICT is not regional any longer. And if anything we do is not global, it is worthless. It's not mainstream. It will go nowhere. And actually, many of our members are not from Europe, are not headquartered in Europe. So, as you say in the slide, 20% of our members are from outside Europe. So it's an important balance. Our community is very broad. So it goes from governments, universities and research bodies, network operators, suppliers. Everybody is being Etsy members. So and that's important because this is enabling that when the standard, when the technology is developed, is bringing requirements from everywhere. And it's important that we need to balance three roles within Etsy. Being this global standards producer while keeping our hat as European standards as an organization. And again, being a European standards organization is what enables us to be very close to what our policy makers do require from us. So it's important because it's a very good link to probably many of the organizations that will deal with critical communications challenges. And last but not least, we also support some other bodies to develop their standards, and we just give processes and tools. So actually, we are a very big toolbox for you to use us to go in the right direction. And again, we don't make regulation, but help regulators through our standards. We do not certify anything. We are not meant to make certification. but our standards and our tools and that specification are used by others to certify. We don't allocate frequencies. We've heard about the spectrum today a couple of times. And of course, we have a very good link and very good connections to coordinate and contribute to all these frequency requirements that the systems, through the requirements by users, will want. And we are not part of any governmental or any kind of these associations, but we have very close liaisons with them, because it's very important that what we do is being applied. And of course, we are very close to TETRA. TETRA was designed several years ago, and it was a very specific and very focused project. It was focusing group communications, and it was focusing on going digital from the analog world. It started because we were European, or we are European. It started as a European framework project and designed to be used in a very specific frequency band. So you see our different roles in the chain. And since it was kind of started, this project has gone through a whole lot of milestones throughout its history, which we are really proud of. So TETRA is one of the prides within ETSI, and that's why it's so important for me to come and tell you how close together we are. And TETRA has a home in ETSI. And we've seen today that chairman of the TETRA Technical Committee is around, and the chairman of one of the working groups, because there's a real nice home where we look after the development of this important system. Again, we are trying that things keep in the mainstream. We've heard how important it is to get these economies of scale. We've heard how important it is that we have several different networks. We haven't heard yet, but from my past experience, we know how important it is that systems are coordinated and can communicate, and you can play with the cross-borders issues, and having two different systems probably don't help much. So again, we have the place where people come and try and work to ensure the evolution of what has to be your system, this one which is in your wish list. But it's up to everyone coming and working. We provide the tools, we provide the platform. And I wanted to bring up this structure, this TETRA home, because there are two places where work is actually going quite heavy. One is trying to gather all these requirements, and we've heard a few today. The second one is trying to develop how the future will be with regards to data communications into the TETRA world. Because of course, we've heard that there are ways of using already existing networks, cellular commercial networks, to download, transmit, play with data. We can connect to Facebook, we can download videos, we can do video communication. Great. But again, this is using another network. And another network which, by the way, do not provide with some of the very specific characteristics that a TETRA network provides, and that I'm sure those who use them won't give up on those ones. Those are important for day-to-day business. We've heard today already that, oh yes, we cannot give up voice, and probably we cannot give up talking to a group of people, our group, that has been set up in the way we need. We need a very fast setup of this call, so we cannot wait for the connection to happen, and this is critical. And this might extend not just to voice. We need direct mode operation, so we want to talk to our handset close to us without having to go throughout all the network, and so on and so forth. So again, we don't want to lose what TETRA is offering us today. And it's a very specific network, and it's quite complicated. And obviously, it's been backed up by how spread it is around the world. And again, this is something we are very happy with, because this means that more people ask for it, more providers will be providing it, more willingness to evolve and to produce for the new requirements will be in the marketplace. And we've talked a lot about public safety, but you will see that there are some other sectors that do also require this kind of communications. So it's very good. And the way in which networks will be deployed or used will be, of course, country or region or whatever, even customer requirements. But the basics, the basic technology, we need to keep it the same. And now we are in a crossroads. We are in a crossroads because what about data? What is it that we are going to do? In the TETRA community, there has been a development that allows us to go to kind of 0.5 megabit per second. But of course, in today's world, this seems not enough. Development should continue because, of course, we cannot take away what's already up and running in today's networks. Customers just want more. And now the challenge is, and what's next? How big we go? How do we go being that big? Do we go from scratch and build our own requirements through a network? Shall we move and use what's already up there? And again, what's first is requirements, because requirements will probably ask for additional spectrum. How do we meet technology to that spectrum needed? Not an easy one. And of course, what's critical and how critical is critical? Today we've heard that as opposed to what we thought 10 years ago, voice is not the only critical way of communication. And I will go beyond that. The way in which people are using today communications has nothing to do in the way we used communications 10 years ago. So no one can say today that in 10 years' time, when our kids get old and are the ones using the communications technologies, won't believe that video is actually critical and not voice any longer. So we need to provide for that. We need to cater for that. Because, again, the new communication ways are totally different. We cannot expect them. And that seems to be asking for wider bandwidth. And yes, everybody has already heard about LTE. So the big question mark is, will LTE be the choice for these PMR systems? Will that be the choice for TETRA today? Well, of course, if we go to just the technology piece of it will say, okay, yes, greater spectrum efficiency, it's the last technology that we know of. Yes, why not? But does it really meet all the requirements that this mobile professional market will be demanding? Are we sure? Critical communications, will LTE support those? Is it what we are asking for? Because remember, this LTE thing is kind of the evolution from this old GSM. So we started in GSM with voice, and we went through with the whole industry, and we ended up creating this 3GPP thing, which is basically a partnership project. So it's not only Etsy, but some other 5 SDOs around the world joined to work on the mobile communications of the future. And there we are with 3GPP that has a whole system conceived, and where now the latest word is LTE. But we've heard today already, TETRA is not about commercial communications. So this one is supporting the mass market. This one is supporting the day-to-day communications, and if I cannot talk on the phone today, well, so be it. I'll be frustrated, but I won't probably die for that. And 3GPP is a monster in a sense of a huge number of companies from all over the world inputting their requirements and serving the mass market. Huge organization structure, serving to work from radio to system, everything. And a standard that's building on releases, which started back in '99, and that keeps on going, and we are already starting working on release 12. So very big. And how can we do? Because actually, 3GPP is already looking at some developments that might be of interest to TETRA. Proximity applications, this direct mode operation that we talked about. Developments about public warning systems because of our Japanese colleagues that have input all these requirements. Priority, so how to prioritize channels to a certain communication needs. But again, is that enough? Of course, 3GPP will say LTE is the key enabler. That's when you want high data in the radio, you should go to LTE. It's a spectrum efficient, that's what you need. But again, this is meant for commercial use. How to introduce what the TETRA community would require. How to go to this big community and try and introduce what you need. Some more figures to understand these differences. From the 6 billion mobile terminals going around the world to the probably 3 million, it's important having in mind that there are differences. But TETRA community is a big community. So it's about being determined to go with your requirements and make them happen. So it's not impossible, it just requires work and determination. And this can then happen. And of course, going and not missing the stream of happenings. So I would really discourage going on a parallel way or on a different way and being alone and isolated. So there's a lot to do in the standards development. We need to keep on working on what we have and fine-tuning what we have for broadband and trying to see what's next for TETRA. And there's room, and there's a very, very good opportunity there. Doors are open, so I would encourage you to come and build a case for also trying to get some spectrum from the authorities. And that's basically it from my side. I hope that we all keep on working together to ensure that our users have what they request from us. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. I'm sure that we all share the commitment to keep on working on this and making the world a better place. Thank you.
Thank you.